glad we're finally meeting. It's been a while. I've been
Mm.
actually following you from, let me see, when did I get aware of you? It was probably a few months ago, couple months maybe. And I
Huh.
got interested because I am actually very interested in how people change their minds. No matter what the falsehood, like if you've, and I've changed my mind on many things. So, and I'm always fascinated by that process. And that's why I'm talking to you.
Oh, okay.
So let's start with, let me see, here's my list of questions. So let's start with who you are. You're still a Republican, right?
Yeah, because it never was about parties per se. So that
Yeah,
I'm not even trying to make a change on that right now, even though there are no Republicans right now. I
that's
don't
okay.
know.
But like you have your set of beliefs that led you to being a Republican, which is fine. And you still have those beliefs. Can you give the listeners a brief rundown of what your beliefs are that led you into being a Republican?
Well, actually, it's more family driven. You know, when you're in a family, they're all
Hmm.
Republican. I've always tend to like a lot of what the Democrats do too. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to probably have to change parties because I'm not for what they stand for today. You know,
Hmm.
equal rights for all people. I'm for lowering taxes though, but everything's changing. Taxes now for only the rich, you know, and
Yeah.
I still have some issues about the border.
Yeah.
But I think women's rights, you know, they're attacking that, and that's not what I stand for. So I'm
Hmm.
kind of confused right now. I'm sorry, I can't
Right.
answer that question very well, but
That's okay. Yeah. So but that was your past through your family or whatever. You were a Republican, a staunch
mhm.
Republican, and that led you into Ammon Bundy's group, right? Can you inform the listeners how that association ended up? Ammon Bundy, again, is the anti-government activist who's got into several fights with the government on range, on his ranch land and pastures and so forth.
Yeah, actually, I'm a retired alcohol and drug counselor. I started doing some local TV community shows that were as a volunteer to help the
Uh-huh.
alcoholics and the addicts in the city at that time. Because there's an epidemic going on with heroin overdoses. And people heard about my little shows. So the mega girls called me up and asked if I'd come out and start videotaping them. And that's how I kind of got started because I was
Uh-huh.
retired, nothing else to do. And they named me a citizen journalist, but I'm not a citizen journalist. I was just having fun. You know, I'm an
Yeah.
alcohol and drug counselor. So I would
Yeah.
videotape them. And I got home one day and I saw a video on Facebook because I was live on Facebook all the time. And
Yeah.
in Boise, Idaho, there's very little news that covers very little, especially for the right. And I saw Ammon Bundy talking about it was right after the shutdown, the COVID,
Mhm.
you know, COVID happened. And I thought this would be interesting. I want to go down there to his meeting. He was inviting everybody to see what's going on. What's he talking about? I didn't know much about him. I should have done my research. Yeah. But yeah, he's really a right, white wing, extreme. But they carry a Bible and they talk about loving the Constitution. So you get fooled real easy. So I went to
Yeah.
his first meeting and I told him, look I don't break laws because I'd heard he put guns towards FBI or something. Of course,
Yeah.
now I know the whole story, but he says, Miss Hemphill, I don't break laws either. See how he puts it? To him, it's just standing up for the Constitution. But
Yeah.
so I just actually hung around to videotape all their events. I was on the fence with them. I was never fully involved. I was more on the sidelines
Yeah.
watching. And I liked a lot of what they were talking about, helping your neighbor if the government overreached. But their overreach, now I know, is all made up propaganda. None of it's
Yeah.
true.
And you hit upon the exact word I was about to mention, which is propaganda. And I think that people who are not skilled in it, like you or me, we're just people, and
Yeah,
we don't know what skills the propagandists use. And they use the exact skills you're talking about, which is use those words that they know people are attracted to, like constitution or
yeah.
freedom or love or whatever it is. So you actually hit upon one of the exact things we will talk about down the road. Okay, so from Ammon Bundy, and this was all going on in 2020. I think that was they were occupying the Idaho State Capitol in Boise, right? That was all happening in 2020, the lockdowns, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
From there, you got involved in the Stop the Steal movement after the election. So tell me a little bit about that. How did that work out?
No, I didn't actually get involved in any movement.
Okay,
No,
okay,
I never was a member. I was always just there to videotape.
I
That's,
see.
and I knew the people and I talked to everybody, but
Hmm.
I was
You're
always
a
on the
friendly person.
I'm friendly. Everything seemed so okay because
Yeah.
they gaslight you so much. Because I would
Hmm.
ask questions, I'd come back with, well, I'm not sure about this or that. And they say, oh, Pam, you're listening to the wrong people. Don't believe them. And so these
Yeah.
are decent people, master's degree. Some are legislators, one senator. It's like, okay, they wouldn't be lying to me, right? You don't think
So,
to
yeah, a
check.
couple things. One is you hit upon another thing that works the way the propagandist works, which is try to block off other sources of information. Like Pam, don't listen to them. They're not
Yeah,
telling you the truth. And the second thing is you want to name any of these people that you mentioned, the senator or the legislators that
I
you
don't
were involved.
remember his name right now. I just don't remember.
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
some memory problem because of all the chemotherapy, and I'm
Hmm.
on some medicine right now. Like it's like a little chemotherapy. So,
Yeah.
and I'm terrible at remembering your name anyway. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So we go down to after the election and people are telling you what are you hearing from these people? Like what exactly is the message that they're
Oh,
giving you?
that the election was stolen, black and white. It was
Yeah,
stolen. The machines were the problem, that they somehow made it where they could get in there and change the vote.
yeah,
You visualize this, because nowadays with technology, people can do a lot of things. So you believe them. You just
yeah,
believe them. And then you have Giuliani out there, all these top people backing Trump, saying the election was stolen. You just don't question it. You
yeah.
don't think to question it.
And what did you think of Giuliani at the time? He was kind of a very prestigious name in your mind at the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
A famous
Yeah.
man and
I had high regard for him. I respected him. I didn't know all I know now. He is
yeah,
he's got problems with women. Very Love Parnas even talked about it. How
yeah.
he grabs women, and he's got serious mental health problems. Yeah, now I know
And
he's a
yeah, and being a counselor, an addiction counselor, you can also perhaps uh, be able to detect that he also has an alcohol problem. In
oh,
fact, he
definitely.
was pretty intoxicated.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you hear from all these top names, people who you trust, people who demand your trust, effectively tell you not to trust everyone else. And they also, one other thing, they prey on your ignorance because most
Yeah.
of us don't know that it's not that easy to go into machines and change votes. It takes a lot of, talking to experts and so forth. So they're telling you that they've literally gone into voting machines and they've changed votes, and that's where your mind is at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to DC for January 6th. By the way, did you attend any of the other MAGA rallies before January 6th? Because I think there
No,
was several. No.
I watched them, a lot of them. They were always too far away for me to go at the
Hmm.
time. Um, and they looked safe, you know, they
Yeah.
did. And so because my chemotherapy was coming up in 2 weeks, my family said, why don't you just go there for a Christmas gift? And you could see the White House, you could see the Lincoln Memorial, maybe hear Trump speak if you can get there early enough to get up front. You love to videotape everything. You could
Yeah.
videotape, and it was going to be a fun thing. Some women were supposed to meet me there, but it didn't work out. I don't know where they ended up being. I was by myself, and I couldn't get in to see Trump that morning. The crowd was too big, and I had stitches, so I had to be careful. It was pretty disappointing. So when they said he's going up to the Capitol, I thought to myself, why is he going up there? He just had a speech, but that didn't matter. I thought I'll get there before everybody else, and I'll be able to be videotaping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So even that one factor played into how the attack happened, which is people were told Trump is going to speak at the Capitol. So that was a really important, whether it
Yeah.
was a lie at the time or whether he actually intended to speak, we don't know. But whatever it was,
Quite
the
a few
fact of
people.
him.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it got out there where that's what everybody thought. A few people weren't sure, but the
Yeah.
majority said, yeah, he's going to the Capitol. So, you're going to get up there before everybody else gets up there. It's not like just one person out of 20. It was like 18 out of 20 said he's going to be there. So they're all hearing the same thing.
And I mean, for good reason, because he said he was going to the Capitol in
Yeah,
his
I'll
speech.
see you at the
He
Capitol.
actually said, yeah. And
And
in
fight
fact,
like hell. And fight like
fight
hell.
like a hell. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you hear that Trump is going to be at the Capitol. You want to videotape him. So, like any good journalist would do, you make your way to the Capitol. And what happens there? What do you see on the way? What do you see when you get there?
Well, where Epps and Ryan Samsel are at those gates, that spot, you could see signs, do not enter. I don't think there's any officers there at that time. But I was
Okay.
disappointed. I said, oh my God, this whole place is fenced up. Where are we gonna meet? In my mind, but
Yeah.
because I was live on Facebook, I said,
Yeah.
well, but I think it's a good thing because we got a lot of crazy people. I figured they're just doing protection,
Yeah.
protecting. This sounds crazy, but I didn't even know the transfer of power was happening that day.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know it was going on. I just, I don't know what I was thinking,
You were
but
in it for the ride. You wanted to videotape everything.
but
And
they're in
Trump.
there, they're in there doing the transfer of power, and I don't even know about
Yeah.
it. No, I feel silly. But anyway, I turn around and I see a group of men coming towards me. It was the Proud Boys. So I went up to him because you know how Trump spoke about him. Remember that stand
Yes.
down?
Stand back and stand by, he said to
Yeah.
them.
And I'd seen him in Portland. I never met him.
Hmm.
I think maybe there might have been a few Proud Boys in Boise, but it's not like I knew him, you know what I mean? So I wanted
Right.
a video too. And I figured they're there to protect us against Black Lives Matter, right? So I said, are you going inside the Capitol? Well, I thought legally they're going to
Yeah.
be there with Trump. And I wanted to
Right.
be there and follow them and get all this on video, And he
Yeah.
says, no, ma'am, we're not going inside the Capitol. So they must have known that it was locked up. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
So that's
I know
actually
now.
interesting. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
now. And here's
I know
a
now that whole day was locked up. I didn't know. See, I
yeah.
thought because Trump's going to be there, the Proud Boys will probably be extra security for him, and he
Yeah.
may even talk to them. So I was going to stay close to them. I
Yeah.
was being a journalist. I want to be the first one with the first video.
You were
And
embedding. You know how the journalists used to do in Iraq, like embedded journalists? So
yeah,
that's what you thought you were doing.
plus I'm live, and I got
Yeah.
everybody in Idaho watching. So it was fun for them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they went, not the violent side. Now, my side had violence, but the real bad violent side, they went around the other way And that's where I followed them and I stayed there. I didn't know there was two sides to the Capitol. I didn't know
Yeah, the
what
east
was
and the
there.
west. So just to go back a little bit, first you arrive at the west side because you're coming from the White House, right? So you
Yeah.
arrive to the west side of the Capitol, you see barriers, and you see Ray Epps, and you see Ryan
No, no,
Samsel. You don't.
no,
Okay. You
no,
see,
that's just the spot that
that's the spot.
yeah,
Okay,
there was
okay.
fences, it was obvious you're not supposed to go in.
I see. So you don't see these men. You just
No,
noted
no,
that
that's
that's where
just
they
the
were.
spot. Yeah, that's the
Okay,
spot. Where
got it.
later they came. Yeah, that's that spot there. You know what I'm talking about, that spot?
Yes, we've seen a lot of videos of Ray Epps being at that
And
spot.
he's whispering to Ryan Samsel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Baked Alaska is videoing him at that spot and
yeah.
talks to him. So you're just saying you were at that spot. You did not see
And
them.
it was all fenced. They said they got there and the fence was taken down. I don't know. I don't know
You
about
saw
that,
it
but
fenced.
it
Yeah,
was all fenced. I got some video of it too. And there's signs, no trespassing, you know.
yeah,
It's
right.
obvious.
So
You
it was
better
very
not.
clear. Yeah.
Very clear.
And then you meet up with the Proud Boys, and do you know who they were? Which ones by
I didn't
name?
know
You
at the
just,
time.
okay, okay.
I heard the
So then,
name,
okay.
Nodine and Biggs and
But you don't know who you were talking to. You
no,
just,
no.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So then you head over to the east side, right?
I
Is that how it
followed them.
works? You
And
followed them, yeah.
but they're standing there and they're all talking. And I thought I better get up front because I saw there was another barrier up there before they do. So I could
Mhm.
be in front of them to video, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
good angle, right.
but I guess apparently what happened, they didn't stay there and they went the other way around. Well, I
Uh-huh.
didn't know. I figured they're there, they're gonna stay there,
Mhm.
but they left. But William Dunphy, have you looked him up?
Yes, he's a pastor, I think, and
He's the
he
one with
got
the bullhorn.
indicted. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he got
And
indicted.
he turns to me and says, they're gonna let us in. We're not in, on the steps. We're negotiating. It was all a
Yeah,
trick. But you know how they're pushing too hard, like at a football game or a concert?
right.
And so I had taken a pain medicine because I had 40 stitches.
Mm-hmm.
When they're pushing, an officer pulls me over.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, in my mind, that he's letting me come before the crowd. That
Got
they
it.
were, because they were gonna let him on the steps. So I didn't have, too much happened too fast. So I go around saying, come on in, it's your house. Well, I'm a little, that pill made me a little weird. I
But
never
also
taken,
this was a common sentiment that everyone was expressing. It's your house. I've heard it on video, like everyone was saying it.
but I
And it
thought,
makes sense it makes sense
yeah,
in an abstract way, but not in a concrete way where you can just
it
enter.
looks like I'm encouraging people to break the law.
Yeah.
And see, I'm thinking they're gonna let them in legally. But
And
anyway,
FBI actually quoted those statements, which is unfortunate for you.
but that's what got me in prison,
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that. But I wasn't intending to hurt or,
I understand.
I don't push barriers or push officers. You don't do that. You don't
Right.
break them. But then when I realized that they're not letting us in, the officer, the woman, they're not letting us in. I said, oh my God. So they put me back to the same spot.
Hmm.
Looking back, foresight, okay, I should have insisted that they get me out of that area. But I get put back there and within minutes they did it again. And that's when the officer pulled me over again.
Hmm.
I ran to the captain. The captain said, go behind the officers that are on the steps. But I get there, I'm trying to get my camera and I get pushed down. They stepped on my head over and over again. Oh my God. Pulled out my shoulder. Oh my God, my muscles. Cut my knee, broke my glasses. It was an officer that pulled me up. And if it wasn't for him, I'd be dead. And they put
Hmm.
me behind them. But
So
see,
to
that's
clarify and to give context, you're now on the east side of the Capitol and you're on the steps. and you're being pushed in by the crowds, and
On the
you're trying
steps.
to
No,
videotape.
yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry,
I'm pushed down,
pushed down by the crowds,
and
and the
stepped on.
officers repeatedly help you up and protect you,
Yeah,
essentially.
no, not repeat. They just did it once, got me
Just did
behind them.
once, got
They
you
got me
behind them.
behind. And I was
Okay.
sat down and got my air because I couldn't breathe.
Uh-huh.
But then they pushed through the officers anyway and went all the way to the top of the Capitol.
And were you then at the top of the Capitol?
No,
You
I was
weren't.
on the
Okay.
steps on the side, just taking a video, watching everybody come.
Okay.
I couldn't move yet. I couldn't move yet because I had lost my breath. I was still trying to get my air. You know, I'm 69 years old. I could, you know, I got beat up pretty bad on those steps. I'm lucky to
Right.
be here. So that's why I give the credit to the Capitol Police. They saved my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. They saved a lot of lives that day, including all of Congress.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens next? You're being shielded by the officers, and you're
Well,
beat up.
I get my air, and I thought I want to go up and see what the captain's doing. And I go close to the door, not really, but all of a sudden a smoke bomb. I don't know if it was um, the crowd doing it or the officers. I don't know who did it first.
Mhm.
And that scared me. I thought, oh my. So I went towards the captain and all the officers, and I said, anything I can do to help? And he said, no, because I'm a, civilian. I
Mhm.
wanted to help put water in their eyes or something. And I said, what are we gonna do? My God, this has gone out of hand. He says, I'm trying to get help. I'm trying to get help. And then he told me to stay on the side there because the officers are coming in and out because they're all getting pepper sprayed.
Yeah.
And of course, I gotta stay and I gotta videotape. That's all I want to do. And then I get in front of the doors. There's two officers, but the bell's going off. The windows are broke. So I don't know what happened. I missed all that because I'm
Yeah.
not that close to the door. And people are going in and out, and I'm thinking, okay, something happened. They've changed their mind. They're letting us in, I guess.
Mhm.
But I'm not gonna get tricked. I'm gonna ask the officer because I got the
Yeah.
video. I'll get close enough to him, say, sir, are we allowed to come in? Well, I got shoved in. I
I
didn't get
see.
it. And I said, it's on my video. I said, I don't want to go this far. And I got shoved in. So I sat down immediately. I sat down right away. And
Yeah.
then an officer's come to get us out. And I said, sir, I cannot go back in that crowd. They're,
Yeah.
they're dangerous. So he helped me get out. And once I got out, I'm going back to the front of that same area. And I see Jacob Chansley. Now, I didn't know who he was at the time,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that
The
horn.
QAnon shaman.
So I went up there and videotaped him. Then he
Yeah.
went to the front of the door to get everybody to leave. He had that Trump, remember when Trump's telling everybody to leave? He had a
Yeah.
video, a phone. And so
Right.
we were trying to get people to get out of there. And I stood there and protect that door so nobody would go back in. Now, I don't know about the violence on the other side.
Yeah.
I have no clue. I heard a little something. I heard somebody got shot. It's like everything's moving and
Yeah.
happening so fast. And in my mind, I want to videotape in case my video could help the law enforcement. So I'm
Right.
video. Thank God I wasn't on the other side.
Yeah.
I would have
It's
been.
ironic because your videotape did help the officers, the FBI, except it got you in trouble.
Well, yeah, I was
Okay.
guilty. Yeah, I should have left.
Yeah. So see, this is what is so unusual about you, that you say up front that you did something wrong and you wanted to be held accountable, which is, as far as I can tell, extremely rare for a person to be that upfront about it.
Oh.
So let's talk about that. So you leave DC eventually. At a certain point, you hear that the FBI is going to indict you. And what were your feelings upon hearing that?
Well, actually, it was 8 months later. I think they
Uh-huh.
knew I was doing chemotherapy and radiation.
Hmm.
See, I was friends with the Idaho State Police in
Yeah.
our capital. They know me. Everybody knows me in Boise. everybody. And not a bad way, they know,
Yeah, you're the
I always,
citizen journalist.
and I was the one that you didn't like, because if you're on the right and you're yelling at officers, I would get on your butt and I'd say, leave
Hmm.
these officers alone. And I don't believe in bringing ARs to a Capitol. So
Hmm.
I had both sides not liking me. But I called, the very first person I called was Mike, that's his first name, Idaho State Police officer. And I said, Mike, I got shoved in. What do I do? I'm hearing there's a arrest going on. Do I turn myself in? Because I'm getting ready to get on the plane to come back. I'm hearing
Yeah.
all these, I'm hearing about the violence. It's like I was in shock. I didn't know
Hmm.
that much craziness had happened. And he said, no, you're not on the list, so don't worry about it. So that's
Hmm.
all I know. And so I thought maybe didn't break any laws. And 8 months later, actually, when they knocked on the door, I said, I'm so glad this is over. I was always worried, am I in trouble or not?
What was your jail experience like? I've seen videos where you were terrified because nothing like this has ever happened to you. So you're
I got,
terrified you're about to
I
go to
haven't
jail.
spent one night in jail in my life. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I can
don't,
imagine.
maybe a speeding ticket. That's it. Um, yeah. Well, I got to give some credit to the judge, but the judge doesn't have power over where you go. He
Yeah.
did try to recommend a medical facility because I'm still under the care of a physician for my cancer.
Hmm.
But I ended up in the worst unit in California prison, Dublin prison. It was
Hmm.
all over the news. They had just arrested the warden and
Hmm.
officer for molesting the inmates in a
Oh
big
my
drug.
goodness.
It was a horrible place.
Mm.
And 95% cartel women. I'm in a unit where they're lifers. Now the lady turned to me and said, Miss Hemphill, there's a big mistake. Nobody ever, and I'm a lifer, 28 years here, has been here for a misdemeanor. I said,
Wow, that's terrible.
but this lady, her name is Michelle West. Look her up. Free Michelle West. She's innocent. She's a
Hmm.
beautiful Black Muslim lady that needs to be free. And she's
Hmm.
close to it. I think she's got a lot of signatures. But she used to tell me, you focus on God. Don't focus on these women. I'll get you out of here. Because they were going to put drugs in my room. And
Hmm.
if they catch you with drugs in your room, you could get an additional 4-year sentence.
Wow.
Like, get me in more trouble. So she made sure that didn't happen.
So you actually found a protector in prison. That's
I,
amazing.
I said, I think God sent me here just to help you, Michelle, because I'm going to talk
Hmm.
about you anywhere and everywhere I can, because this lady is innocent. She's a wonderful lady. She doesn't
So
belong there.
you should write a book about your experience. Have you thought about that?
Well, the problem is I think a judge has to prove it. You can't make money off of your crime. But if
Mm.
I could write it and the money would need to
Hmm.
go to the Capitol Police, though. I don't want no money.
Right.
I don't think it'd be right for a defendant to make money off of January 6th ethically. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel right.
Well,
But
I mean, yes, people do.
let's make money, but let's give it to the Capitol Police that lost their life that day, to their family.
Yeah, that would certainly be a noble goal
Absolutely.
to help
I
the
don't,
police.
yeah, because I don't need any money. I'm fine. But I'd
Okay.
like to
So
get the
you're,
story out there.
yeah, I think that you do have, I mean, you have had all these experiences happen to you just
Yeah,
through just through your attempts to videotape history, right? That's what you were setting out to do.
that's all
And
it was.
yeah, and you did videotape history, but you found yourself in the middle of all these events. Okay, so um, let's get to, so you spent 60 days in jail. It was
Yeah,
I imagine, a very traumatic experience.
it is. It's
Yeah.
horrifying. If you've never been to prison, but see, you gotta have a criminal mind. It's like you can fit in.
Hmm.
You can't be polite there. Do you know what I mean? It's
Wow.
like I would say I'm sorry or excuse me, and it's like they look at me like I'm crazy.
Wow. This is, yeah, it could be a movie, but anyway, uh, so we go from 60 days in prison and you get out, but you're still on the Trump train, so to speak, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay, so because I've heard interviews of you with some mega media, I think it was called
yeah,
Dark Outpost or something after you
yeah.
got out, and you're
Yeah.
still sort of believing the big lie, which is that the election was stolen,
That I'm a victim.
that you're a victim. So what happens then? Because that's when your transformation begins, is after you get out of jail, right?
Yeah, see, when you plead guilty, um, you know you're guilty of the crime that they're because that you know how they say it was our house,
Yeah,
and that's true, but not that day.
right.
So I
There's
try
like
to,
the abstract truth, and then there's the concrete day to day. Like it's your house in the grand sense, since we're all Americans, but it's not where you can just walk in and live there. It's not that kind
yeah,
of your
yeah,
house.
you know, to say I'm not guilty, I was locked down that day. But at the same time, I just didn't feel guilty like I wanted to break the law. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it
Just,
does.
it's not, but ignorance, like I say, doesn't exempt you. But I'm sorry, I
I think
missed your
what you're
question.
I think what you're driving at is intent.
No,
You
yeah,
didn't
no,
have the intent to break the
no,
law. You didn't have the intent to overthrow the
no,
government or any of that.
no.
But in the
If I,
moment, you
oh,
agreed that you did wrong things. And this is why you had a misdemeanor, even though it seems really
yeah,
harsh to me that you went to jail for 60 days. But you
yeah,
certainly did not get the kind of sentences that the people who went in with the intention of overthrowing government got.
yeah. They lost their mind. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was all accidental, but back to choices. I should have left. See, I keep shooting myself, but I have to videotape. That was
right.
my choice.
Hey,
Paid a heavy price.
you're not the first journalist who's gone to jail, and you probably won't be the last. Okay,
Well,
so
I should
you,
have had a legal paper saying I was a journalist.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
press pass or
credentials.
something, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so you get out, you're still on the Trump train, so to speak, but then
yeah.
what triggers your, like, your realization that that was all a lie? How did that happen?
Well, actually a combination of family and a good therapist that kept listening to me and saying, "You're still sounding like a victim, like you're angry, and
Mm,
still upset." And I said, "I am." It's like because they see it before you do sometimes.
yeah,
And he says, "You're not a victim, you're a volunteer." And I got angry. And I thought, I'm not going to see that therapist anymore.
interesting.
No, but he was right. And so was my family. And then what happened within a week, Ryan Samsel,
Yeah,
I went to help him. Well, what happened? I started the first J6 Twitter space.
uh-huh,
So all of us could come together and be victims
yeah.
and talk
Talk
about
about
how
how
bad.
you had been, talk about how you've been wronged, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm listening to some of this stuff and it's not feeling right. And I don't sound like them because they said, "Oh, the FBI did this and did that." And I said, "Well, the FBI were nice to me." I mean, it was just truth.
yeah,
And a lot of things I didn't fit in my story with them. And they said, "Oh, Pam, why are you saying that?" And I said, "Well, it's just the truth. They were nice to me. I even
yeah,
told the FBI I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to sit down because see, I vape
uh-huh,
tobacco. I said, I'm going to vape before I go to jail. I've never been to jail. And the FBI said, "Go ahead." They were nice to me.
yeah,
So I'm not going to say they were terrible. They were
mm-hmm,
doing their job. That's all. That's their
yeah,
job. If you break the law, the FBI is going to get your butt. But
yeah,
anyway, Ryan Samso, I found out that they said the guards had taken his eyeball out. Now, I don't care who's in prison, human rights, right?
human
So I
rights,
want
yeah,
I wanted to stand up for him. And there was a big article in Gateway Pundit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did some digging and some research, and I can't give you names because I promised, but I got a hold of a resource that the best you could have that said his eyeball is not out. He's lying. I
Yeah.
said, what happened? He had called the guards the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not okay for the guards to beat him up, but I get it.
Right.
You know, they shouldn't have hit him. But
No, they shouldn't have.
they didn't take his eyeball out. They might
Yeah.
have damaged it. So all of a sudden I noticed his gift send and go went way up to past $50,000. So I
Once the
realized
Gateway Pundit article came out, his Give Send Go went
it's a
way up.
scam.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
doing scams. All of them are doing this. All of them are talking about they're not getting due process. They're getting beat up. Well, that's prison. You know what I mean? It's nothing to do with them being a J6er. They're not
Yeah.
being targeted. And of course, we found that out as the government went in there and checked everything. Few things needed to change, but that's just needed to change, period, in the
Yeah.
DC jail.
Yeah.
And so when I started seeing all this gaslighting and this drifting and lying, I started calling on them on it and giving them information, and they didn't want to hear it. Pam, I don't know who you're talking to, or he did lose his eyeball. I said, I'm telling you, on the side, I'll give you my resource on the side. I didn't want to say in a space, you know.
Yeah.
You could check my resource because he's lying. They didn't want to.
Mm-hmm. And this was all happening around, say, May or June of this year, maybe, or was it earlier than that?
Your memory is probably better than mine. It's been a while.
Okay. Yeah.
April, I kind of turned around.
April,
So,
you turned around. Okay. So a little
yeah,
before that, maybe March or something.
yeah. When the
And
article,
so
you researched the article right around then.
I have it on my list. I'll look it up. So around the time the Gateway Pundit article about his eyeball coming out was posted. So that was the moment. And I remember at a certain point, Brandon Straka, one of the J6 defendants, he reached out to you. And I get the feeling that he's a really skilled propagandist. You know, he's been doing this walk away campaign. And I noticed that he reached out to you to and my guess is he wanted to make use of you in some way. Did you have an interaction with Straka?
It was negative from the start. I gotten a video with Nancy Peroski's daughter, and I shared it with him. Somebody had sent me a video of her talking about the J6ers not really being that bad or something. I still have the video. It's out there now. It's everywhere. But no, in fact, he invited everybody but me to be a speaker on his space. He started pushing me out because I wasn't I'm not putting down the FBI. I mean, I'm still the victim, but I'm not supporting you if you hurt officers. It's like you don't support people that they're not heroes if they hit an officer. You know, I would say
So you
like,
still have your bright lines and you're not going over those bright lines.
and they don't like me. And
Yeah.
I'm not catching it. I'm thinking they're like me. You're not going to make a hero out of somebody that pepper sprayed an officer, but they're doing it. And I'm going, oh my God. So
yeah. So you realize that so it started with the Samsel story that you realized was a lie. And then you saw how they were forgiving, beating up on officers
and a couple of sedition hunters, I didn't know there were sedition hunters at the time, would give me information.
yeah.
And it was reliable. And then they told me who they were, and they started giving me more information. And it's not matching the narrative that they're telling me, the J6ers.
Yeah.
So I would bring that to a space and I said, well, I got this information and they're saying this. And they say, well, don't listen to that information. See, that's what they tell you. They gaslight you. I said, wait. They have no reason to lie to me. Plus they had some court records that could prove it. So they
Yeah.
had receipts.
So did it take, so I am aware of the sedition hunters and I think they do amazing work. They've even
Yeah.
helped the FBI and they are just, I mean, just stunning amounts of research that they
Oh,
do.
I
They've
really
even helped
respect it.
me. Okay, so you got in with the sedition hunters. They gave you real information.
Real
And did
information.
it, so you started to change your mind. And now you have sort of started to change your mind about a lot of things, right? Not just the J6ers and their faults, but also you say that the election being stolen was a lie. You've seen through that, right? So, what do you think it would take? You know your process, but you know the obstacles you had towards changing your own mind. What do you think it would take to get, the tens of millions of people that still believe in Trump? What do you think it would take to change their minds?
You're not going to.
Yeah, it's
It's
just a
almost
dead
like
end. Huh?
it's like an alcoholic. He's going to get sober when he's ready. I don't know if you
Interesting.
know any alcoholics. As an alcohol and drug counselor, I never got anybody sober. However, what I'm finding that will work, and it worked for me, is when you, let's say the Democrat, not you, but
Yeah.
the Democrat, stand your ground with your facts.
Yeah.
Don't go backwards on it. Like what's his name right now that's out there really a lot? Oh, I have a blank spot. He's doing a lot of good work and he wrote a book. Michael Cohen. I think it
Michael
is.
Cohen. He used to be
Great.
Trump's lawyer.
He's out there pushing, talking facts, giving him, stay with that because they got to hear it. And it's like, you're never the same when you hear facts. It's like you don't even sleep well. Their conscience will get to them eventually. It's just like with the alcoholic and the addict. Once I put it in front of them, the fact that they are an alcoholic, they have a disease, they will die from it if they don't stop. They can never be the same. They know now there's a way out. And same with Meg. That's that's why I thought if I wrote a book, I wanted it to be called Stop the Spin. So we could open it up and go, here's the facts about who was responsible for the Capitol Guard that day. We even have a Capitol Police, what was his name today, talking, saying that it was
Tariq Johnson. Are you talking about Tariq Johnson?
Him and another one. He wrote a book, Under Fire.
Stephen Sund, S-U-N-D. No. Are you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he has it wrong too on the facts. Because I have real researchers in my spaces. I mean, that's all they do. They explained who was in charge of the Capitol. It was Trump. It's not Nancy Pelosi. They need to stop blaming her. Had nothing to do with her. And there's receipts for that. There's proof. And when you come in my Stop the Spin space, these researchers lay it out for you and give you receipts and links so you can research yourself. It's not just, they're not just making up something,
Yeah. So this is actually a very interesting thing that you do, which is the Stop the Spin spaces. And these are on Twitter, and you invite anyone who will come and you advertise it with the hashtag Stop the Spin. So this is for listeners in case they want to jump in one of your spaces. I've been on a couple of your spaces, not the entire time, but part of the time. And yes, a lot of good information gets shared. But do you ever see MAGA people getting on your space?
Oh, in the beginning, and well, actually, 2 weeks ago, oh my God, I got 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
I get certain people come after me. I can't think of his name right now. He was an attorney. He ended up blocking me though. But yeah, they'll come in and they'll bring up something I said or did in the past. And I said, yeah, that's what I said. That's what I did. I apologize. They're not bringing in facts like, oh, we know who's in charge of the Capitol that day. No, they don't bring stuff like that. It's all to make me look bad. So that
to discredit you.
So you don't come in and hear
Yeah.
the facts. if they could come in and say, we're going to debate you. We got some facts about January 6th on this captain or this senator. Fine. That's good. That's what we want to do. Prove me wrong. I don't want to be right. Because if I'm wrong, I want to be proven that I'm wrong. Because we all just want the facts. Who cares who it is? You know what I'm talking about. Am I making sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't like that
absolutely.
to find out that my neighbor right now has been robbing banks. I would not like it. I like this lady next door. She's a wonderful person. And if you came and said she's robbing banks, I would flip out. But there's the facts. She got arrested. She's in the jail right now for robbing a bank, right? It's the same with me. I may not like it, and I didn't like it when I got the facts about Trump, not to start off with. But see, because the media kept using me as an example of the government is weaponized against us, and it's not true. This poor old lady with cancer, they
The mega granny, they called you.
They milked it. Look what they're doing. And compare me with Biden, right? Come on, get off of it. I'm guilty. I pleaded guilty because I'm guilty. The government is not weaponized against Pam Hemphill.
And in fact, that was another Gateway Pundit article, if I'm not mistaken, that was trying to call you the mega granny and say that Biden was throwing grannies in jail and this kind of thing.
Well, it was Tucker that started it.
Oh, it was Tucker.
He's the one that gave me, I was in prison and my brother called and said, Tucker's put you on 3 times and he's calling you mega granny.
Wow.
I like to famous. Well, no, I didn't want to be in prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be out there. Trust me. Not this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. But they got me out there without my permission. I mean, I'm nobody. The little trespasser,
Yeah. Who wanted to face accountability for what she did.
But they used it because of the cancer and my age.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I wanted to make 2 comments. One is that the Proud Boys and the Straka and Tucker, these people are very skilled at using people. So just like they were trying to use your story to create, this anger against the Biden government, they also used all the Trump supporters that went to the Capitol that day. In fact, that's in court documents where the Proud Boys didn't want to do the entering themselves. They wanted what they call the normies, people like you who had no intent to break the law. They wanted to use the normies to break into the Capitol so that they wouldn't be punished. But of course, the government got hold of all their text messages and saw that planning. But it was the same deal. They wanted to make use of people who believed in Trump, who went there as a free speech protest rally, not in order to overthrow the government.
And these cult leaders like the Proud Boys and Trump and Ammon Bundy, that's what they do. They use their followers. Ammon Bundy would get arrested a few times, but he would get mad at you that you didn't get arrested. It's like, really? Because you should have stood your ground no matter what the officers are telling you. Don't move. You have a right to be there. No. If an officer tells you to move and go back to court and sue him, right? But meanwhile, you better do what the officer's telling you. But see, that's the cult leader. They use you.
They use you. Yeah. They use you for bodies, like cannon fodder, to throw you into the breach.
For their own agenda. And they pull you in and get you believing all these lies. It's sad. It's really sad.
So the other thing, and probably the last, we should end the interview soon, but the last thing I want to stress is I think you said something very important of how minds are changed. You said 2 things. You said expose them to facts. That's one thing. So that opens up maybe a little crack in the door or plants a seed. It may not change their mind right away, but it plants a seed.
Yeah.
And then it has to come from within, almost like an alcoholic. The desire to change has to come from within. And once that happens, and there's already been seeds planted in your mind of facts that people have told you, that can grow. and change people's minds. Am I characterizing you correctly?
Yes, you are. I think it's gonna be a sad day when they realize it. T-shirts that say I love Trump and pictures of Trump and flags of Trump. It's gonna be a sad day for them to realize what they've done, how they've made this man a god.
Mhm.
And that he is from God, which is really
Yeah.
sad, you know,
Mhm.
because even Satan was able to fool you. He was an angel of light, right?
Right.
So it's going to be a sad day. Because when you see it, it's like when your eyes get opened, you feel so like, oh God, how did I not see it? It's like a
Yeah.
shame feeling. Like, oh
Yeah.
my, I thought I was smarter than that I wouldn't get pulled into a cult. You just, because you think of preachers as cults, not presidents, but
Mhm.
he is a cult leader. And he don't care about you and me or anybody. It's all him. He's just trying to get out of trouble right now. He don't care if you're in prison or what happens to this country at all. And
Right.
not one bit.
He's
I
a
used to believe,
sociopath.
well, it's beyond that.
Yeah.
Narcissist for sure.
Yeah.
Dangerous one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you got out of the cult, and I really admire the efforts that you take to help others that are in the cult and
Thank
your
you.
insistence on facts and evidence. So that's been really impressive to me, which is why I wanted to talk to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you.